Welcome, everyone. I'm Keith Koo. Tonight, I will be hosting our session with Jennifer Kavouniaris, who's running for Fremont Unified School District, Area 3. We are part of the Chinese Immersion Program and Council of Fremont, California. And also with me is our president, Van, so Wave Van, and she is also our co-moderator.
Hello.
So we started this tradition, it's now a tradition in our last school board election where we wanted to get to know each of the candidates that was running. And so we started doing this series. And so it's just great to be able to do this again. So thanks everyone for your participation. And it's just great to see everyone. So Jennifer, I think we'll start off with your background. What led you to be interested in public service, especially in education?
What led me down this road is honestly, I have grandchildren going into Fremont Unified School District into kindergarten next year. And I'm just very concerned about a lot of the curriculum that's going on. And I want to make sure that I'm on the front lines there intercepting it and making sure that these new state laws that are being passed down are going to be handled properly and responsibly, especially when it comes to sensitive topics such as sexual education.
Got it. And then in your past, have you held public office or have you been involved in education?
No, I have not.
All right. And then you say you have grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
For your children, were they in public school, private school, or some alternative school setting?
Right. So my oldest is 25 and she graduated through the assistant nursing program. She graduated a little early. She left Kennedy because she was having problems there with bullying. She decided to go through the ROP program and has a little career now with Stanford Hospital. So we're very proud of her. My second daughter is 15 and she actually goes to private school because she's special needs and we could not get the help that we needed in the district. So we were forced to go private.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have a lot of questions from the parents. And as we discussed off microphone or before we recorded that, I've tried to group them so there'll be a manageable task. For those who put questions in, thank you. We're going to try to group the questions so we can get through the most topic areas. And then if there's something, well, at the very end, if we have time, we'll take some ad hoc questions as well. So I've kind of put the first bucket in as just overall education. So we've talked about your background and how you, the environment that your children grew up in. What are some of the thoughts around curriculum in your mind? So you start off with the things that you're interested in terms of tackling. What specifically in the curriculum aspect are you interested in or you want to pursue?
Well, let me share with you, just in the last 24 hours, my team and I, we've been discovering a lot of stuff that we're going to be exposing. And I think everyone needs to know that FUSD purchased a new curriculum, an SEL, social emotional learning curriculum named Second Step. And it's a provider of it's a transformative SEL program. And I have a problem with this because I believe that it is definitely a politically weaponized company. And I don't think we have any business buying any curriculum from this company at all. There's too many concerns to go into it to discuss here. And we're going to be uploading everything overnight. So be sure to check out my website in the morning. We have some stuff up now. But we'll have most of it up by morning. There was just too much of it to list. Yeah, so we'll start there with the SEL, the curriculum. That's what I'm worried about.
Okay, thank you. Following up in terms of some challenges or issues regarding the curriculum, there is a question regarding your philosophy on banning books that are considered controversial. So do you support the effort by other states to ban certain books that some parents find objectionable?
I don't think any book should be banned. Some of my favorite books, The Color Purple, To Kill a Mockingbird, I've seen those on the ban list, and it's alarming. No book should be banned, but there are books that are, we need to make sure that they're age appropriate and make sure that, the younger kids are not getting access to stuff that could be harmful or confusing to them.
Got it. In terms of Fremont having a very diverse population of different people groups. what types of enrichment programs, because we're Mandarin Immersion and there's Spanish Immersion Program, what types of programs do you find strengthen? Do you want to change, or do you want to add on in regards to that?
You know, we have got to fight to bring back our AP classes, because right now, we've lost it. We're not competing globally, and we have got to bring back classes like vertical farming, aerodynamics. We've really got to mix in, the future and get our kids up to a competitive level, because right now they've fallen behind. They're almost 2 years behind. And to me, that's the main concern right now. Even over the budget, we've got to get these kids caught up, and we've got to be offering them better programs and new classes, and get them competitive again.
Right. Thank you for the answer.
Mhm.
So more specifically in terms of diversity in ethnicity. So we have a
Mhm.
Mandarin Immersion Program and a Spanish Immersion Program.
Okay.
If there were opportunities or budget, are there other programs you would see? And this also goes with the lineage of MIP, I think, is 12 or 13 years now, and Spanish immersion's, close to 20, 25. So previous superintendent had thought of a plan to add additional diversity and enrichment programs, and also seen as a benefit to attract students into Fremont schools.
Explain what you mean by diversity enrichment, because I do know that 70% is made up of Asian and Indian. That's a huge chunk. So explain to me what you mean exactly by
So even though Asians might make up a chunk of the population of the
right,
schools in Fremont,
right.
we're talking about specific language enrichment programs. So Mandarin Immersion
Okay.
Program in Fremont, which my daughter happens to be in the founding class and my son is actually still in,
Okay.
is a bilingual situation similar to other districts
Mhm.
throughout the country. And so they're seen as a net positive. So Spanish immersion is older than Mandarin immersion. That's just two language programs at school in Fremont Unified School District, which actually is a net positive, is seen as a net positive as an enrichment program. So are
Mhm.
there other programs that you might be aware of, say French or Hindi, or other programs that you would think would be a benefit, or have you given it a chance to think about that?
It has not been brought to my attention yet. It's a great question, and we've definitely got to support these programs, and we need more programs. The Mandarin languages, that's awesome. We have to keep this going. We can't let the kids, you know, uh, not communicate and teach the next generation. So we definitely have got to have the more clubs, the better. In my opinion. So if we've got young kids, you said your daughter is the president.
No,
We've
no,
got
no. She
kids.
she was in the founding class.
Oh, in the
She's
founding
past it now.
class.
She's a senior in high school. Yeah.
So that's great that we've got these kids that want to be leaders, and we've got to make sure that we are giving them the support that they need. And I think that, the kids, they're so resilient and they're so smart these days. If we would listen to them sometimes and run with their ideas and be there to support them, I think that's going to make all the difference. So yes, I would support anything that the kids come up with. I'm definitely open to listen to the kids, and I want to do what they want to do.
Thank you. And
So to
so
clarify,
go ahead, Van, please.
yeah, to clarify, the bilingual language immersion programs starts at kindergarten, and the kids are taught in two languages. Starts
Mm.
off with 90%, 90% Chinese, 10% English, and then it gradually goes to 50% over time. So I think one of the open questions is, are you familiar with those programs? Do you support it? Do you see it as a competitive advantage? Or do you see it like
Let me tell you from my experience, because my daughter is Greek. So we had her in preschool, and so English was the main language. We've got her dad talking Greek to her, and at preschool they were trying to talk Chinese, and they were trying to write Spanish. It gave her more problems, and she had more confusion trying to take on a little bit too much. So I think that as long as we are, monitoring it and doing it responsibly so that it's not too much, it can also cause a lot of stress for the kids. So definitely want to start early, but I don't want to put too much on the kids. So we found out my daughter is severely dyslexic, and it was making her very upset in the beginning because it was a bit too much. So I think as long as we approach it and we're aware of the kids, and if they have any, we need to be able to pick up on those learning disabilities. So as long as we're paying attention to the child and they're not overwhelmed and it's not too much for them, all the more power to them. Yes, we need these programs. On the flip side of that, kids are sponges. A lot of kids, by the time they're 2 year old too, they are bilingual. So I think it depends on each child is different, and they're unique, and we have to kind of judge it, each case by each kid's, by their case.
Yeah, and just to give a little more context, Jennifer, as you get more up to speed on the program, it is around the country, language immersion programs are sprouting up. Not addressing those with special needs is that it is seen as a net positive. It's always opt-in, and for the kids who are in the program, those that successfully complete the program, that's why we called it an enrichment program. So I think that's just something to be aware of, and something that entices other students from outside of the Fremont Unified School area to potentially come into, which is something. So Bringhurst,
yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, so Bringhurst was just granted for us as we've expanded considerably over the last I think 12 or 13 years, right? That we've expanded considerably, and Bringhurst is a designated actual school for elementary, K through 5, K through 6. So one more thing though, in relation to the challenges of many school districts throughout California, the Bay Area, even trying to get language immersion programs, specifically Mandarin, even Union City having now started one, is it's a difficult hiring process. And the hiring traditionally doesn't happen until maybe even a week or 2 weeks before school starts. One of the things that Fremont does not do that our competing school districts do is sponsor H-1B visas for these teachers that have the language skill set, but cannot get an H-1B visa to participate in our district. What would be, I know this is like pretty on the spot, so if you need more time or you want to come back, but what is your view whether or not Fremont should or should not support H-1B visas to get these very rare talents?
It sounds like we need to support it. Like I just said, we've got to support these kids, and anything, I've got to hand it to a kid if they can be 2 years old and bilingual, and I hats off to the parents for teaching them in both languages. And again, we need to hang on to these languages. Not many kids, can speak Hindu or write it or speak Mandarin. And we've got to keep these traditions, and we've got to keep this going. And the best way to do that is with clubs and supporting them. So yes, I would fully support that.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm going to move on to another bucket of questions. Again, we can come back. We have time. We do plan to officially stop at 8 p.m. just for those coming on board. And we welcome you. We have a preset, well, I say preset, we have a list of questions on a Dory. There's a link for those who came in, before 5 minutes ago. So Van, you might want to put the link back in again if people had more questions. So we'll get through as many as we can. We've grouped the questions. So if you don't see your specific question, we've tried to group them. And then if we've missed something completely, just at the end, if there's time, we'll try to readdress it. So I want to move on, Jennifer, to kind of the financial challenges that we experience in Fremont Unified School District. So what are your overall thoughts on the state of our budget in our school district?
Well, I think the budget is in trouble, and it's going to be in trouble. We need to keep a close eye on it. We spend over $430 million annually on this budget, and most of it's, due to teachers' salaries and benefits. And, we had one thing that they're taking away from us on the ADA is that they want to take money away for excused absences. They want to give us money, and I want to take it a step further and make sure. See, the state, they set laws in Sacramento so that we can't discipline kids for truancy. So they don't, and because of those laws, I'm saying that they should give us the funds for not only excused absences, but inexcused as well, because, they're handcuffing us and we can't discipline the kids for not showing up to school. You started that law, so therefore, we demand to be compensated. I think it's really important that we work with the legislatures and have close relationships. You got to have someone that's going to go and fight for you, and that will make a lot of money appear, because right now the decline, I don't know if you guys have noticed how many people are leaving FUSD. It's kind of an alarming rate. So we need to make sure that, we're factoring that in, especially when these one-time funds end and they're gone. So definitely want to keep an eye on the budget, because, I want to use it to our campuses are so dilapidated. They really need to be updated. And with the campuses and then we also need to make sure that, seeking teachers and then also retaining them, even if we have to poach them from other districts. You know, what can we do to be getting them at the beginning of their journey? You just said, you know, we hire them often last minute, 2 weeks before school starts. You know, let's back that up. How can we get them at the beginning? Can we get them a signing bonus? How, you know, let's get them the money that they need to start the programs that they want, their ROP programs. You know, people, they forget how much I think that the teachers are spending on their own, you know, and people get used to that. And I think our teachers have been forgotten, and we need to correct that and fix that. So that's something that I want to keep my eye on the budget as well. And that's, you know, we've got to get these teachers and we've got to keep them.
All right. What's your general thoughts or philosophy around, or what are your financial priorities? If you were elected, what would be the first things you tackle?
This one's an easy no-brainer. It's the SRO. The SRO, the Student Resource Officers Program. I feel that it's on the chopping block, and my opponent is bringing on a lot of heat because keeps, you know, it's $1 million. It's $1 million. I'm sorry, but $1 million is nothing when it comes to your child's life. So I want to make sure that that program is staying intact. And then, like I said, I would like to use the monies for, we need so much upgrading. We need so many more new buildings, and we need new supplies and books. But yeah, coming back to the funding, I definitely would want to make sure that the SRO program does not go away.
Great. And that addresses the priorities of what to get funded. How would you propose to actually get the funding for those things?
You know, there's lots of way we can do it. And I think that, you know, people are missing out on what parents can do and how we can pull our resources together. And we've just, you know, we've got to get together to make it work. We've got to go. I think people are they're forgetting that, you know, markets dictate also. So let's go after, let's say, like, you know, this is Silicon Valley. Let's go after Silicon Valley and some of those businesses. Let's get them to help us with startups. Let's get them to help us educate our kids with these programs so that they can go out and work for them. You know, let's call out on some of these companies. You know, the funding is there and we can find it. You know, we've just got to dig deeper.
Thank you. Just as an anecdote, some of the candidates in the last election brought up the same topic, that Silicon Valley is ripe with technology companies that should be able to help. And I'm not sure if that actually came to fruition, not for lack of trying. So it does come up again. I didn't know if you had any other thoughts about other than using Silicon Valley companies.
Well, luckily it comes back to, I'm a very resourceful person, and because of the restaurant industry business that I'm in right now, I do know a lot of people, and I can't say the company's names, but I do have, you know, 2 right away that are ready and willing to help me. And I do have a couple little projects that I do want to work on right away if I'm elected, and I'm hoping that I can come through for the schools. That's very exciting.
Thank
And
you.
these companies, they're very forward thinking, you know, vertical farming, aerodynamics, you know, the stuff, the classes that we want to get our kids on the competing, you know, globally on the competing playing field.
Okay, and then shifting from, still staying in the finance bucket, there's been some measures to try to increase funding. What are your thoughts on some of these measures? So one of the questions is, do you support Proposition 28, which would set aside 1% of the general fund for arts and music education?
Absolutely support it. We've got to bring that back. I feel that that's what's lacking, is the sports and music. You know, we've got to have these, you know, creative outlets for kids. It's so important. So yes, I would fully support that.
All right, and then for Measure L?
And what was Measure L?
I'm trying to get the specific myself. I think it has to do with parcel taxes.
Oh, you know what? I don't want to have to go through parcel taxes. I don't want to have to ask the residents. We have enough taxes. There's other outlets that we can go through without having to raise our taxes. So no, I'm not going to support that.
Okay, yeah, let me read the question. I should rephrase it, was how did you vote on Measure L in 2020? But it sounds like you would have voted no.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. So moving on, and again, if we've missed the financial question somebody had, we'll try to get back to it later, but we're going to move on for sake of time. So I wanted to address what do you think are the most significant challenges to the district? This is a very
Okay.
open-ended question.
Okay. Right now, I believe the biggest challenge is how far behind our kids have fallen, and it's serious, especially in math and reading, and that concerns me the most. Definitely, we've got to get our kids back up to at the level that they should be. That and like I said, getting the teachers, retaining the teachers, and will you repeat the question one more time?
Yeah, just the open-ended is, what do you feel are the biggest challenges that you'd like to tackle? And so we've talked about math, we've talked about retaining teachers.
Mhm. Definitely getting the kids up to their level, and then like I said, updating all of the campuses, the really dilapidated. And then lastly, getting those teachers that we need. It's a big concern. We've got to get in the right teachers and the right programs.
Thanks. So following up to the comment you just made about dilapidated schools, having been a resident for, over 20 something years, there's been a couple of bond measures to address specific programs and projects. And so, for instance, part of that was to update all the junior high schools, which we're still in the process of, even as we speak. So in order to, and so this is kind of tying back to the finance question we had earlier, and it might be repetitive since we already addressed how to fund that. If we don't do a bond, if we don't do a parcel tax, if we're not otherwise finding sources, how do we actually update the schools?
That's a good question that we're going to have to get to the bottom of. We're going to have to cut some other stuff. We're going to have to prioritize, and that's going to cause us to get in there and really, push up our sleeves and figure out, what's going to be important to us, where are our values at as a community. And we just got to start from there.
Got it. Following up to the comment you made a few minutes ago regarding the leaving of students from the school district, would you know the statistics? Is it more driven off of people moving out of the Silicon Valley area, or is it because people are choosing alternative education, or is it a combination of factors?
It's the combination. I do not know the statistics, but it's definitely a combination of people leaving and people just not showing up.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we know it's a challenge. It's just, what is the answer to how to, with people moving away, how do you bring more students in? I don't know if you had any thoughts about that.
Again, we've got to make FUSD desirable. We've got to get those AP classes back. What do we have here? Why would kids want to come here? What programs do we have to offer? Do we have cutting edge, forefront? Are we competing with other schools at their level? We've really got to get, these programs in, like the vertical farming is so popular right now, and the aerodynamics. I mean, these are the jobs that we need to create and combine with all these high-tech companies. So again, reaching out, advocating, and getting those companies to help us.
Right, thank you. So go ahead, Van.
To follow up on your response around, as a community, we got to prioritize and figure out what to cut in response to the financial question. If you were on the row of the board, what would be your priorities and what would you promote cutting?
I know what I won't cut, and I won't cut teacher salaries. I need to get in there and take a better look at the budget because it runs pretty deep, but I know what I won't cut, and I will not sacrifice teacher pay or benefits.
Is there anything you would cut?
Not off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Other than the SEL curriculum that I'm trying to expose and shine light on, that I'm very concerned about.
Can you describe a little bit for the parents who don't know what about the SEL curriculum? A little bit maybe about. I know you mentioned the funding or the company, but set up aside the company. Is there like specifics in the curriculum that you find not beneficial or opposed?
Yeah, it's too many to list here. I want to direct you guys all just to go look at the videos and all the information that's on my website. It's JenK4FremontUSD.com.
We just think it might be helpful to just do a high-level overview of what the program is itself. So not all the details, but just a description of what it is.
Okay. So it's a transformative SEL program, and I don't like this company because they're very highly politically weaponized, and it reeks of CRT. And I think it has no business being in our schools. We want kids to succeed on their merit, not anything that's based on their skin color.
Okay, and just what is the acronym for SEL again?
Social emotional learning.
Okay, and then for those coming in, CRT stands for critical race theory.
Critical, yes.
Yeah, so
And we need to be careful because a lot of the CRT is being disguised now through the SEL lens, and they're saying it's not CRT now, it's SEL, social emotional learning. And when we got in there and we dig deeper, it's just this company, it's not good. You know, I don't think this is the direction that we should be going.
All right. So as we move on, we'll move on to the next section. We are actually, because I want to make sure people are aware, these are topics that have a lot of discussion, debate around them. So we really start talking about SEL and CRT. So along those lines, and we'll be jumping around a lot because there's a lot of questions. Several years ago, the Mandarin Immersion Program, which we're all stakeholders in, there were racist attacks from the community while we're at Azaveda School. Without all the details, but it was pretty well known that the neighborhood residents had posted on Nextdoor some very overtly racist comments and attacks regarding the program and the school. Some of the board members, I'll say differently, some in the district were fairly flippant about what happened and did not address it for years. And it took us about 2 years to get resolution, and we never got full resolution. But what would have been as a board member, if you'd heard, and it's documented, so this is evidence-based, if you'd heard about racist attacks against students at a Fremont school, what would your reaction have been, and how would you have taken steps to address it?
It makes me really upset because I don't tolerate bullying. I actually had a racist incident happen to me today. I can't even repeat it. It was so bad at Pacific Commons. So yeah, you know, it needs to be disciplined. We need to handle it right away. It should have been, I'm sorry that it was not addressed. That's embarrassing, and it needs to be taken seriously, especially with, you know, it's 70% Asian, and for that not to be addressed, it's kind of insulting. You know, Chinese, that's got to be hard. I actually lived in Japan for 3 years, and that's why I want to bring a lot of my experiences just from what I learned from the culture there and the people there. I grew to love the culture and the people so much it became a second home. So I'm very protective over Japanese people. So, you know, I could see how I want to be protective over the Chinese community. You know, you've got all these great, we're one big melting pot. This is America, greatest country in the world. And we want to be proud of, you know, all of our diversity. So yeah, I would definitely protect that. And you know, we would have to talk with other board members to see, you know, what kind of discipline would have to be taken. But that's shocking and upsetting that none was taken, and that's uncalled for.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we'll shift that then from, you know, a lot of times people perceive racism as not a physical assault. And so it's not necessarily deemed at the same level, but let's shift to physical violence. What steps would you take? And I think you already mentioned about the SEO. What other steps would you take to protect students physically in our schools?
Physically?
From physical violence.
Oh, from physical violence. You know what? We need to have, you know, maybe some type of 3 strikes and you're out, or some kind of not even 3 strikes, but some kind of, you know, program going where, you know, we need to let them know that we don't mess around. I know it's concerning that I've heard that there's a lot of gangs going around Fremont and Union City too. So we need to let them know that, you know, we're tough on it, and we're not going to be pushovers, and we're not going to be bullied, and we're not going to let people, you know, beat up our kids and be mean to our kids. So we need to take more of a serious stance on this. Let them know, you know, these mama bears aren't going to let people mess with our kids. You know, figuring out what disciplinary action. I mean, now what, they can be expelled, kicked out of school. But yeah, let's bring awareness to that. Maybe there's some kind of activities we could do through assemblies that we could do at the beginning of school, so that, you know, we lay out the foundation our expectations throughout the year that, you know, this isn't going to be tolerated. So it's definitely something to talk about.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah.
So would you then also support or not support installing cameras in schools?
Absolutely. I 100% support it. You know, why not? Cops wear cameras. You know, wouldn't you like on your lunch break to just drop in, check on your kids, see what they're doing, check out the teacher? You know, if the teacher has nothing to hide, that would be total transparency. That would like solve the trust issue, because parents have lost trust. I think, you know I have in the system and the teachers. There's so much out there right now. I think, you know, people don't know what to think. So we all need to, you know, get on the same page and get a good plan going and then execute it.
Got it.
You said that people have lost trust in the teachers. At the same time, you are also saying you wouldn't cut any of the salaries or benefits of teachers because we need to retain them and there's a teacher shortage.
Mm-hmm.
How do you balance out those two comments?
Well, I think the teachers should be having a raise. So, but also, you know, how do I balance out these two questions?
Yeah, I think Van's question, if I may, is more of one is an accountability question and one is retention of teacher question. How do you balance that as
by putting in a camera in the room, and then we'll know which teachers that we can trust.
Got it. What is your thoughts on the term education equity?
You know, a lot of people want to make everything even and equity and equal. And, you know, the flip side of that is that, you know, there's nothing merit-based. Why do we want the same outcome for everyone? You know, I get it from a political stance, but, you know, we need to get these kids back on track with their AP classes and, you know, get them up to speed so they can compete globally.
Right. So now we're getting into some personal questions. So we have a question about a statement in a post that you had said there's been widespread voter cheating. Is that like
I never
specifically
said
local
there was
election?
widespread.
Okay, I mean, like I'm reading this off of questions
It's
off.
so funny, all the things that I had to quit, like trying to have conversations on social media, because so many things can be taken out of context. Poll watchers, every place is different. And so I was told, when you go in, you know, don't give them any reason to throw out your ballot. When you go in, make sure that you know who you're going to vote for. Make sure that you fill out the front and the back. So, you know, the front and the back of the ballot, so that there's no question over, you know, if something isn't legible and they're going to toss it out, so that there's no cheating. Let's show up on voting day in person. Let's overwhelm the system. Let's fill out the ballots, the front and the back, and turn it in. That's all I said. Don't give these people any reason, you know, to question a ballot and to throw it away, because our vote is very important and this election is very important. And I'm urging everyone to get out and vote in person on election day and to fill out your ballots on both sides. And I stand by that comment.
All right, got it. And then a new question is, what was your stance on the masking vaccination policies for the last 2.5 years?
I'm not sure what the vaccination policy has to do with me running for school board, but I'm against masking. I feel that it's very harmful to our children. There is enough evidence now. There's no peer-reviewed studies saying that they ever worked. I'm really against it. I think it's harmful. I think it limits our, you know, learning abilities. You can't see facial expression. It's not healthy to breathe through a mask all day. I think that was the worst things that we ever could have done to our kids. And I'm very against masking. I think at this point, it should be up to personal choice. If you want to wear a mask, fine. If you think it's going to protect you, you know, if that's your deal, wear the mask. But I do not think that kids should be forced to wear masks in school. I think it's silly at this point.
Right. Another question from the community is, somebody's actually on your website right now, and they wanted you to expand on what you mean by stopping the radical agenda.
By stopping the radical agenda, like for one, the SEL. So I don't think a lot of people realize that Diane Jones, Trustee Diane Jones, she voted against the SRO program every single chance that she got. And specifically on September 8th, 2021, timestamp 1:15, I don't even know if you guys are aware that the school board made a pledge to Black Lives Matter. And in that pledge, when you go to the website, when you sign that pledge, part of it is defunding the police. Okay, this is radical. We cannot defund our police. You know, we've got to keep our kids protected, keep the SRO on campus. You know, we've got to keep these kids, their curriculum needs to be safe, and they need to be kept safe so that they can succeed in life. It's pretty simple to me. So that's the radical agenda that I think that I want to shine the light on. I don't think we have any business buying this curriculum. I don't think we should have pledged to Black Lives Matter, especially now learning all about, you know, it's nothing but a Marxist criminal organization at this point. You know, I get the saying Black Lives Matter, you know, I understand it. I'm sympathetic and empathy to it, but, you know, at the same time, like, all lives matter, you know, and I want to make sure that, you know, all people are treated the same and we're all treated equal. And, you know, that's my stance on that.
Thanks. I'll jump in really quick because most people know that I'm an advocate of all people. Just the comment, all lives matter is important, but that specifically in the Black Lives Matter context. I'm not saying whether I support Black Lives Matter or not, but the context itself was that just acknowledging certain people groups have been put in certain
Right. And I totally acknowledge that. But again, when you go back to Black Lives Matter, the organization, and when you do your research and you start seeing what's really behind it and how against the nuclear family they are, I really question, you know, Fremont trying to follow that. I don't think it's good for our kids.
Right. In regards to a question that we did not get to earlier, so that is like one grouping around kind of controversial topics.
Yeah.
So specifically back to a school question is, union contracts require that open positions be offered internally first before offered externally, as we talked about a little while ago. Certainly in our program, we had challenges hiring just because of skill set. And so even when there's an internal candidate, it doesn't have to be posted externally to even until June. So when the school year is ending. If you are not aware, what would be your position on actually shortening the internal transfer process?
I'm not sure. I'll have to do some further investigating. So I'm not going to answer that. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. No,
You guys, I'm all new to this. I'm just a mom. I'm a grandma. I'm not a politician. I don't answer to unions. This is all new to me. You know, what you see is what you get. And I'm learning a lot as I go. So, you know, please be patient with me. My whole thing is I really do want to protect the kids and protect them on campus and make sure that all this new state law stuff is handled responsibly.
Okay. So coming into a new situation, as you're mentioning, is what is your thoughts and opinions on what you look for in a superintendent? What are the qualities you look for?
Yeah, someone that's very accessible and approachable is my main thing. Because if they're accessible and approachable, you know, that you can communicate about anything and you'll get places and you'll be able to actually come up with a plan.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much covers most of the questions that were in the chat. I'll give people an opportunity to ask any other questions in chat or direct message. But while we're doing that, why don't you let us know why we should vote for you?
You should vote for me because I'm going to keep your kids safe and because I'm not a politician and because I can't be swayed by unions. You know, I promise you guys that I will work so hard and I will do my best. And you know, Fremont, this is such a special city and there's so much potential and we're so right there. And I want to make sure that going forward that, you know, we're going the right way and headed the right direction that we should be. So, you know, please vote for me. This SRO program, you know, it's on the chopping block. Diane said in my the last Zoom we had, she wants to change it. She wants to make it roaming, you know, which means, you know, no cops on campus. And we can't have an environment where our kids are not kept safe. So please vote for me and I'll keep your kids safe. Everything else we can figure out together.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Jennifer. So with that, conclude the formal portion of our time with Jennifer Kavouniaris, who is running for Fremont Unified School District Area 3 on behalf of the Chinese Immersion Parents Council of Fremont and our Mandarin Immersion Program. We thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me, guys. I really appreciate this opportunity.
All right, and we will now end the recording. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That's it.
Yeah, if anybody else wanted